When I was just a little child, my parents used to let me stay up late on the weekends and watch TV until the late hours of the night. I cherished those moments, staying awake longer than anyone else simply because I could. But one fateful night, the atmosphere shifted from cozy to chilling. I was on the verge of drifting into sleep, nestled on the living room couch, when a sinister sound emanated from our front porch. The eerie creak of our ancient porch swing filled the room, moving back and forth as if propelled by unseen hands. My heart pounded, and fear coursed through me like an electric shock. With trembling steps, I tiptoed toward the bay windows, peering out towards the porch. There, on the swing, sat an elderly woman, perhaps in her 50s, her gaunt form swathed in a tattered nightgown glistening in blood. Her gnarled, pale fingers gripped a monstrous kitchen knife, stained dark with an unknown horror. A blood-curdling scream clawed its way out of my throat as I bolted into my parents' room. My voice failed me, and I trembled uncontrollably. My parents, alarmed by my hysteria, initially brushed it off as a night terror and urged me to return to bed. But I remained resolute, my sobs and pleas finally breaking through their skepticism. My father, unable to ignore my distress any longer, seized my trembling arm and hauled me towards the front door. My resistance was fierce, but he persisted, determined to prove that my fears were unfounded. With each step, my cries pierced the night, an eerie prelude to the terror that awaited. Finally, we reached the door, and he flung it open, ready to expose the illusion. "See, there's nothing that," he began to say. But his voice faltered, and his face contorted into an expression of sheer horror. In that moment, my father and I bore witness to a sight that would haunt our nightmares forever. The woman, the embodiment of a macabre nightmare, swiveled her head to face us. Her cold, lifeless eyes locked onto ours as she slowly rose from the swing, the gleaming knife clutched in her trembling grip. The door slammed shut with an agonizing crash as my father recoiled, the pallor of terror gripping his face. Urgently, he retrieved his shotgun, determination in his eyes. He returned to the door, just enough to slide the barrel outside, his voice trembling as he inquired about her intentions. "Somebody killed my husband, but it wasn't me," she hissed, her words dripping with madness. Panic coursed through her as she realized the police were on their way. In a frenzy, she snatched the knife and disappeared into the abyss of the night, leaving us in a state of paralyzing dread. 15 excruciating minutes later, the police found her attempting to break into one of our neighbors' homes. That spine-tingling night left an indelible scar on my psyche, and I vowed never to sleep in the living room again.
The silent phone. The town of Hollow Creek had its fair share of mysteries, but none as persistent as the legend of the abandoned house on Elm Street. For as long as anyone could remember, every night at precisely 3:03 a.m., a shrill ring would pierce the silence, emanating from the dilapidated structure. The source? An old rotary phone, its cord severed, sitting on a dusty table in the living room. Most residents had grown accustomed to the eerie phenomenon, dismissing it as an urban legend or the antics of mischievous teenagers. But for Clara, who had recently moved into the house next door, the nightly ringing was a source of endless fascination and dread. Night after night, she would lie awake, waiting for the haunting ring. The sound seemed to beckon her, a siren's call that she struggled to resist. Whispers in town spoke of previous occupants who had ventured into the house to answer the call, never to be seen again. But as days turned into weeks, Clara's curiosity grew stronger than her fear. One fateful night, as the clock's hands inched towards 3:03 a.m., Clara made up her mind. She would answer the phone. Dressed in her nightgown, she cautiously approached the abandoned house. The front door creaked open, revealing a dark, musty interior. Guided by the pale light of her flashlight, she made her way to the living room. And there it was, the old rotary phone, as if waiting for her. As expected, at 3:03 a.m., the phone rang. Its shrill tone echoed through the silent house. With trembling hands, Clara picked up the receiver. "Hello?" she whispered. A cold, raspy voice responded. "Thank you for answering, Clara." Frozen in fear, Clara managed to stammer, "Who are you?" The voice replied, "Someone who has been waiting for a very long time. You see, this phone is a bridge, a connection between our world and the next. Every night I've tried to reach out, to find someone to take my place." Clara's heart raced. "Your place? What do you mean?" The voice grew more insistent. "I've been trapped here, bound to this house, for decades. But now, with you answering the call, the bond can be transferred. You will stay, and I will finally be free." Panicking, Clara dropped the receiver and sprinted towards the door. But it wouldn't budge. The windows were sealed shut. The once familiar surroundings of the living room now felt alien and menacing. As dawn approached, the phone rang again. But this time it was different. The ringing was coming from Clara's house next door. And in the abandoned house on Elm Street, the old rotary phone sat silent, its purpose fulfilled. From that day on, every night at 3:03 a.m., a phone would ring in Clara's house. And just like the house next door, no one dared to answer it.
The cursed chamber. From the moment Ella set foot in the ancient Victorian mansion, she inherited from a mysterious ancestor. An oppressive weight settled on her shoulders. The house seemed to breathe, its walls pulsating with a malevolent energy. Whispers echoed through the hallways, and chilling drafts seemed to carry ghostly caresses. One fateful night, a particularly icy gust led her to a peculiar section of the hallway. The wall there was colder, and it resonated with an eerie hollowness. With trembling hands, she uncovered a concealed door, which groaned open to reveal a room bathed in an otherworldly, sickly green glow. In the center stood an ornate desk, atop which lay a decrepit photo album bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin. The pages, when turned, revealed haunting images of Ella. But these were scenes she had never lived. In one, she was chained in a crypt, spectral figures feasting on her essence. Another depicted her submerged in a murky pond, lifeless eyes staring up as shadowy hands pulled her deeper. The air grew thick with the scent of rot, and the room's ambient glow pulsed in rhythm with her racing heart. As she delved deeper into the album, ghostly voices began to chant in an ancient, forgotten tongue, growing in fervor with each page. Suddenly, the room's walls began to close in, and from its dark recesses, tormented apparitions emerged, their eyes voids of despair, reaching out for her. In a desperate act, Ella began tearing the photos, and with each rip, an entity would release a soul-shattering wail and dissolve into mist. With the final photo destroyed, the room's malevolence receded, and the once concealed door flung open, revealing the familiar hallway. Ella, drained and terror-stricken, sealed the cursed chamber, vowing to never approach it again. But the house had other plans. Every night, as darkness enveloped the mansion, Ella would hear mournful laments outside her bedroom. "Restore our existence." Shadows with hollow eyes would flit across her windows, and chilling hands would brush against her in her sleep. Ella soon understood the horrifying truth. The mansion was a nexus of trapped souls, and the room was their prison. The album was a cursed artifact, binding its victims to the house's malevolent will. And now, Ella was ensnared, forever a captive to the mansion's insidious desires.